In this episode, the boys talk to Peter Combe. Wow, that's pretty exciting.
And I've always felt incredibly honoured that I got half an hour with the fifth Beatle. And I have to thank Kylie Minogue for it. If she hadn't been there, I probably wouldn't have got that chance.
I think they're still rude words.
My friend had a baby, now he don't sleep no more. Waves crash in his eyes, tides on the nursery floor. Oh, my friend had a baby.
I'm very quickly being known as the source of all panic when it comes to parenting.
You're a warrior.
Typically, I'm not. In my professional life and so forth, I'm keeping a cool head's incredibly important, like my day job, but this whole experience has been pretty wild.
You'll enjoy it, I think, in the end, especially when you look back on it.
Peter, you've got four, don't you?
4 children, 3 girls, and 3 daughters and a son, and I've got 7 grandchildren, 5 girls and 2 boys.
Oh, wow.
Not the album I did last year, which is a Frog and My Chief Sandwich, but the one before, which is called A Planet Earth, Third to the Sun. All 7 grandchildren did something on the album. They either did the front cover artwork, or they sang a solo, or they said something, or they sang as part of a group. But they're all involved in some way or another. So I was quite proud about that.
Yes, I'm just absorbing how beautiful that is, really. That's such a amazing piece of art to create as a team.
One of my grandsons became quite a superb drummer. He's only just turned 17. And I mean, all bias aside, he's really already an extremely capable musician. And he's just going to he's already a very good drummer. He's going to end up being a fantastic drummer.
Is that how you connect with your kids and your grandkids as well? Is music is just always there? Or are there times when you can not focus on that? Or is that just an easy way to be involved with them?
It is an easy way. Also, I'm very involved as far as humour goes too. I'm a great believer in the power of comedy. So yes, but to answer your first question, yes, I'm very much involved with them musically. My grandsons are now in a band called Blue Power Man. And this band is going to support me at a big gig in Adelaide at the Governor High Marsh on April the 19th. And they'll be my support group. But the other thing, the humour thing is really important. What I've developed over the years, I'm saying it's a routine, but much more than a routine. It's a sort of a tradition of every birthday I write them a poem. Each one I wrote a poem. And I've been doing that for the last sort of 15 or so years. Yeah, that's become part of the family tradition. We had a birthday party for each of the grandchildren, and each time I read them the poem. It's always kind of quirky and kind of a bit silly, but I always try and incorporate what they've been doing in the last 12 months. So they'll be doing something sporty, or that'll come into the poem. If they've been somewhere special, that'll come into the poem. But it's become quite a lovely family tradition.
That's beautiful. I think that's the stuff that parenthood, or in your case, grandparenthood, should really be about, is creating those really amazing traditions along the way. And I'm sure those poems will all end up on the wall, framed at some point down the track. It's giving me the goosebumps there, Peter. That's.
I know they really appreciate it, because I do spend a lot of time on it too. I don't just off a poem in 10 minutes. I usually take probably at least a couple of hours, because it's another way of, I guess, of keeping my creative juices going. Because you can write a quick poem in 10 minutes, which will be pretty only okay, but you can write a much better one. It's like writing a song. The more time you tend to put in, the better the song or the poem will be. So I can't take it quite seriously, but it's become a lovely family tradition.
The difference between your kids and the grandkids, I guess, when it comes to age as well, is that did it come to a point where your kids are like, oh, come on, Dad, we don't need to do that anymore? And then are the grandkids, holding on to that, and they look forward to that now? Have you found that difference, and it was all sort of come back full circle again?
The poems have come to a bit of a natural kind of end for my children, because my children range in age from, this will make me sound like I'm about 100. My oldest daughter is 53, and my son is 42. So I thought there'll be a point where I'll stop doing it for my children. So that point came about 12 months ago, but I'll keep on doing it for the 7 grandchildren for the immediate future, certainly. And I'll play it by ear, but I still enjoy doing it. And I think they get a lot of pleasure out of it. And the other thing is my wife's done these wonderful books for our 7 grandchildren. She spent hours and hours of collecting pictures and putting them in this gorgeous book. And that, I think, will become a special. And my poem goes in the back of the book. It's the last page, the poem from Pa, because I'm called Pa. So that's, all these things you can both look forward to in the future.
That's really, really awesome. I got to say, Pete, since you agreed to come on the podcast, I've fallen into a bit of a Peter Combe wormhole. Of all the things that you've accomplished throughout the years, you multi-ARIA award winner, raised a beautiful family. You've impacted the childhood of just about every Australian over the course of half a century.
Mm.
And there's one question that's just in the front of my mind when I read through this, and that is, are you furious that you have not been knighted yet? I think you're well overdue to be Sir Combe with everything you've pulled off.
I think I'm quite that egotistical. I have received an OAM, which was very nice. That was just for services to the performing arts, and that was lovely. But no, look, I don't expect that kind of stuff. I mean, if it happens, it'd be lovely, obviously. But I don't think there'll be any knighthoods in the future.
I'm happy to get behind the petition.
But the OAM was very nice. That was very quite a great pleasure to get that.
Yeah, your career's been unbelievable. You've been one of the most successful Australian recording artists of all time, and it's been really interesting telling people in my life that we were catching up today, and the look on their face, it was like I told them that I was meeting the King of England. People go, no, Peter Combe, like, no, you've got that wrong. And I said, no, just bear with me. And they said, how are you going to hold it together? And I said, I don't know. I genuinely don't know. Like this, I feel like I'm meeting, someone who was present throughout my childhood. And all of your songs had such a huge impact. And I remember being in kindy and hearing them and learning all the lyrics and all that kind of thing. It's just an absolutely stellar career so far. And what I've read about part of your career right now is you're performing this amazing catalogue of material for people that are now adults.
Yeah.
And still completely infatuated with your music. Was that an interesting part of your career to go, this stuff's still gold for the people in their 20s, 30s, 40s?
I guess it points to the fact that children music, which is really have any real worthwhile value at all, tends to be timeless. It does get passed down to another generation, like a lovely recipe or something. And I think that's what's happened with my songs. And I've always sort of not tried to make them timeless, but I guess that's just the way that just came out. I guess all the songs that I've loved in my life, children's songs, some of my very old songs. I mean, something like Puff the Magic Dragon, it's a lovely children's song, but it's got an adult level as well. But that song's now probably about 65 years old. But it doesn't matter because it's a timeless song, that the tale of someone growing up, and that will always be the case. So yeah, but I'm really kind of feel quite honoured that the songs are now being taken up by now the third generation, because they were taken up, not probably second generation really, because most of the well-known songs came out in the late 80s, early 90s, and of course those kids are now sort of close to 40, and that's my one of my new demographics. And when I do the Adelaide Fringe, which I do every year, I'm doing it coming up. You get all these people coming along, these 35 to 40, 41 to 42-year-olds with a 6-year-old and 8-year-old. And quite often the parents know the song better than their children do. So they sing them like crazy, which is lovely. So it's been a lovely, lovely journey.
In looking at videos and live shows and stuff like that, I saw footage with an adult audience of people literally doing a belly flop in a pizza during your live performances.
Well, there's a couple of stories about that. I've seen on video, people sent me videos of actually doing belly flopping to a pizza. But the best one is a gig I did at Melbourne University. I think it was Melbourne University in Melbourne. I think it was Melbourne University. And this was going back now at least 15 years ago, where I got to that part of the song, Wash Your Face and Argues, with belly flopping a pizza, but belly flopping a pizza. It went, ugh. And at that point of the song, this young guy, probably 19, 20, 21, a uni student. They all gather in this quadrangle to hear the band play, my band play. At that point of the song, he simply took off his T-shirt quite slowly. He then produced this massive pizza from somewhere and laid it on the ground, opened it up, and then simply belly flopped into it. And it was just the most amazing moment. The band and I, we just stood there flabbergasted. We didn't know what to do. Eventually carried on with the song, but it was a wonderful moment, and it's just incredible. So very memorable.
My cousin, who's a little bit older than me, he attended one of your adult shows at Rocket Bar in Adelaide and filmed. This must have been 2006, I think, roughly.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
I think it was just prior to your DVD with Live at Jive. He has vision. I think it's during Juicy Juicy Greengrass and someone's crowd surfing.
That happened. There are quite a few concerts. Because that particular show I did all over Australia. But I probably did over 100 of them in Sydney, Perth, Brisbane, Melbourne, Adelaide, Wollongong, Newcastle, all the Ballarat, all the big capital cities, Hobart, Burnie, Launceston. I did the shows all around Australia, and they had a real kind of wonderful vibe to them. And the vibe was that these young people would come along. This is like going back, around about 2006, 2007. They'd come along, and they were then around about early mid-20s. They'd grown up on the songs. And when I would start singing Newspaper Mama or Toffee Apple or Spaghetti Bolognese, there was that feeling of like, although I probably haven't played that song on my CD the last 15 years, when I did listen to it as a young child, I heard it probably 100 times. So the words and the melodies are imprinted on their brain. And you can sort of see them thinking themselves, God, I remember this song. I actually remember it. And so they will sing like crazy. And those songs had almost kind of a strange, almost religious zeal about them. People just loved going back to their childhood and singing all those songs they grew up on. So it was a really lovely sort of period in my career where I just did this show all over Australia. It was just gorgeous.
You can't blame those people, though, for getting so into it, because in my deep dive, in my Combe verse that I've been living in for a while now, before you came along, it was all nursery rhymes.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
Day to day, follow the beat, this is how it goes, and then, Miss Muffet fell off her tuffer.
Yeah.
And then along comes Peter Combe, and he's talking about all of the wonderful taboo kid things that you're not supposed to do. Like a real sort of rebel on the scene where all the lyrics are, sort of laugh behind the hands, but that catchiness, that real, it's so absorbing. And my Spotify algorithm is just, it's forever ruined now. As I've driven around Hobart over the last week or so, I'm in pure Combe mode. And I couldn't be happier with that, to be honest, because much the same as those people that were coming to your show, I was just thinking, this is fucking excellent. This is good music. Yeah. It's really good.
When you write for children, in that sense, it's no different to writing for adults. The song's got to be good. And if it's not good, there's no point in recording it. And I'm very strict on myself. If the song doesn't cut it, I simply don't record it. And most songs I write do end up being good. Well, I think they're good. But if they were kind of only mediocre, and I wouldn't record them. Because I do tend to pride myself on having very high standards in the studio and as a performer, as a writer. Because I think you never want to underestimate children's both intellectual and musical intelligence. So always think outwards rather than inwards. When I write an album, I do tend to go the extra mile. So, I mean, for example, I was saying to someone even a couple of days ago that on the last album was a song called I Dream I Could Fly. And I could have just recorded it myself with a piano. It would sound lovely. But I knew if I could find a gorgeous soprano, I could have him do the solo, and then I could add a string quartet to it as well. Now, that takes a lot of extra time. Find the boy soprano, then find the string quartet, have the string quartet orchestrated, and then kind of produce it in the studio. But that, to me, is what making children's albums has always been about, is going that extra mile to make a song absolutely the best it could be. Because I couldn't bear the fact of thinking, I finished the album and then saying, oh God, I wish I'd I wish I'd added that string quartet to that. I wish I'd done that extra guitar riff there. I wish I added that flute that I always wanted to have there. I wish I added that oboe there. All that kind of stuff that you can do. And it's hard work. Recording is not easy. You've got to really push yourself, but it's always worth it in the end when you get that final mixed album and you kind of listen to it and you think, yeah, you're satisfied with it. And that's to me has always been really important.
That's a great springboard into a question I've been dying to ask you. How do you know when you got it? You know, what is it? What are the pieces of the puzzle? You see them sort of spread out on the table. What's that moment where you go, wait a minute, this is it?
It's a very difficult feeling. It's a very good question, but it's a very difficult one to answer because there's no definitive answer to it. What I do know is that when I'm the way I work with, say, writing an album is I start off with, it's like starting with a blank slate. You've got nothing basically. And I've got a few ideas I've written down in a special book I've got, and I might start by looking at that. Often the first 3 or 4 days, not that much generally happens. You sort of get a few ideas to play around with, but the playing around process is very important because eventually something clicks. You get some nice little germ of an idea, but your question is, how do I know it's good? I don't really know the answer to that. I just know what a good song is. I guess one of the things about a good song is I really enjoy singing it myself. And if I don't enjoy singing it, chances are it's not good enough. I have to want to do it myself. So that's probably the closest I can get to answering your question. But it's a really tricky one to really grapple with.
I've got one follow-on question to that one there, and it's around the benefits of having kids when you're writing these amazing albums and so forth. And it's a two-parter, or part A is did you have your kids there, or did you use your kids as a bit of a testing audience when you were writing your albums to say, hey, what do you guys think of this?
Yeah.
And the second part of that question is, did you encourage your kids to hurry up and spit out some grandkids so you've got another test audience?
Well, the answer to the second one is no. The first question, I never really road tested my songs on my own children. They heard them as I was in the process of writing them. But the best test with your song is always a group of other children you don't know. So what I used to do, I don't do this anymore. I don't really think I need to now, but I used to go up to my local school and sing 3 or 4 of those songs, not to very young kids, but kind of kids who are more 6, 7, 8 years old, because young kids will, in a sense, aren't a great barometer because they all tend to look as if they're enjoying it, whatever it is. They haven't quite got those critical skills. So, and that was a very useful exercise to do that. I suppose after all, you get to know what's going to work with a children's audience. That was what I used to do. But the other thing about your question is I have not used my children, but I've written a song for all my children. I've written a special song for them. And they've all been within 2 years of their birth. So my first daughter, Joni, I wrote her song probably was only 3, 4 months old. Alice probably something maybe slightly later, maybe 6 months old. Emily, I wrote her when she was only about 3 months old. And my son, Tom, I wrote his actually when he was about 2. So that fatherly kind of instinct kicks in. And I think they really value the songs because they're written very much from a fatherly kind of an aspect. And I really enjoy performing all those songs. They're about my 4 children who I love. So it'd be very hard not to enjoy a song about 4 people you love.
Between the poetry and the songs for your kids, you've really setting the bar high here. Because I'm using this podcast as almost like a bit of a time capsule for my son to be, and he's going to listen to this and say, "You brought someone on called Peter who's writing songs and poetry, and your dedication to me is just you banging on for hours, isn't it?" and because I'm a pretty sentimental guy myself, I like hand drawn pictures. I love poetry. I love music. I've mentioned in previous episodes that music's it's a core component of who I am as a person. And hearing you talk about writing music for your kids, I'd be lying to you if I'd said I'm not a touch envious that you've got that talent and I don't.
I can tell you, Scott, it's only one of the few talents I've got. I've got a very long list of things I'm not good at. I guess we're all the same, aren't we? We've all got that one or two things we like to think we're good at, and a whole lot of things we can't do. And there certainly is lots of things I can't do. And luckily, I'm in music, and I can do that. So I do feel grateful that I've got that ability to do it. It goes with a lot of hard work too. It's not just most songs don't just don't fall out of nowhere. The occasional song does. I can say that a song for me that probably Newspaper Man was a bit like that. That just came. I have no idea how or why I wrote it. It just literally fell out of the sky. And when that happened, you're kind of grateful because most songs, there's a reason why you've written them. Like Spaghetti Bolognese, for example, wrote that when I was in my last year of teaching in Adelaide, and I saw a couple of boys there just playing marbles on the lawn. So that became I'm like a yo-yo craze, I'm like a marble phase. So that had a very definite reason why I wrote it. But other songs that did, like Mr. Clickety Cane's like that. So I don't know why I wrote it. I know where I was when I wrote it. I know I wrote it on piano, not guitar, and I know the room I was in this house where I wrote it. But that's all I can remember. I'm sort of feel this is okay because when you introduce with people, say famous songwriters like say Bob Dylan or Paul Simon, I remember this interview with Bob Dylan where someone said, how'd you write Blowing in the Wind? One of his, ultra famous, iconic songs. And there was quite a long silence, and he simply said, I don't know. And that would be the honest answer. He really would not know how he wrote that song. It just somehow came from some mysterious point. And that's the mysterious thing about songwriting. Sometimes you just don't know where it's come from. You're just glad that it has. You appreciate the fact that it's fallen out of the sky and you're kind of glad. Most songs you really got to work away at them. I might spend 20 hours on a song perfecting it and getting it right.
I was thinking before when you were mentioning like songs like Puff the Magic Dragon and Growing Up, and immediately came to mind was Tadpole Blues, and that being one of my favourite songs. A song like Tadpole Blues is that the body is changing. Immediately comes to mind, is when I think about it now, is puberty or something like that. Yeah. But in the case of Tadpole Blues, is that just a frog change or a tadpole changing into a frog?
Yeah, it's as simple as that. And that's the song where I know exactly where I was and what I wrote it. It's one of the unusual ones. I wrote that song in Gloucestershire. I was living in a town called Cheltenham in the Cotswolds in England. This is 1986. And I was writing this song in a room with a piano with an aquarium. And there were simply tadpoles in the aquarium. And that's where the song came from. That's actually become almost my seventh hit. I've sort of got, inverted commas, 6 hits. I've got Wash Your Face, No Shoes, Newspaper Mama, Toffee Apple, Spaghetti Bolognese, Juicy Juicy Green Grass, and Chopsticks. And Tadpole Blues has become very well known. It's almost now number 7 because I do it a lot. It's a very nice song to sing in a concert. It always works well because I can just do it just on guitar and nothing else. And it works really, really, really well.
I can see Alex's world shattering around him because I know deep down he's defined his puberty around that song, and you've just ripped that rug out from underneath him, Peter. And it's a song about a tadpole and a frog, Alex. Yeah. Put it together.
I'm allowed to take what I want from it. That it was important to me. You talk about silliness before, and I'll share something that I do with my kids because I like to do lots of silly things with them and encourage that as well. One of the things on their birthday, they're allowed to wear their socks in the bath when they have their bath of the evening. And
that's wonderful, Billy.
They look forward to it. They know they get to do it. And they know when it's not their birthday, it's, Dad, can I wear my socks in the bath? And like, no, you know the rule. So, okay, I'll wait for my birthday. What do you feel like kids are sometimes told to grow up too quickly and they're forced to lose that? Or if they are, how do you hold on to that?
Well, I think partly by silliness. I mean, humour with children is a big deal. And I used to do loads of sort of silly things with my kids. I'll give you 2 quick examples. I wrote this little game, sort of like a snakes and ladders type game with little prizes. And one of the prizes was a lock of Dad's hair. And that's just silly. But the other thing I used to do was, we used to have a thing called the biggest hug in the world. And the biggest hug in the world was, if you can imagine one of my kids going to bed, and they're in bed, and let's say it's my son Tom. Good night, Tom. Night, Tom. See you in the morning. And you pick him up, take him out, take him to the door. Good night, see you in the morning. Take him to the front door. Night time, sleep well. See you in the morning. Out the footpath. Night time, see you in the morning. Night, night. Down the footpath. Good night, Tom. See you in the morning. And then you hang him on a tree. And you go, Dad, get me down. Now, my kids all remember that with great affection because it was just it was just silly. And I used to love doing silly things with my kids because I think being serious, silliness is really important. I think it's actually part of mental health to be silly with your kids. I mean, I think you should never lose it silly as you grow up either. And I've heard two very famous comedians say this too, that John Cleese and Eric Idle from Monty Python both said that being silly is just like, they say people think it's just entertainment, but they both said, no, it's much more than that. It's about mental health. Because, I mean, if we removed all the humour from the world, it'd be much less civilised. So I think it adds to our, being civilised human beings.
You've obviously created this wonderful upbringing for your kids. And I'm not asking you to compare your kids to other kids or anything like that, but I also am asking you to do that. But did you notice, because they were exposed to all this wonderful creativity and fun, and let's just be silly for the sake of being silly and let's have fun with it, did you notice a difference in how they developed versus, maybe their peers? I know that's a pretty loaded question. I'm not trying to start a war between your kids and their mates, but
no,
I'm genuinely curious.
It's hard to know comparing with other people. What I do know, all my 4 children have a very, very good sense of humour. They laugh a lot of things. And that is, I guess, hopefully the results of some of the stuff maybe I did as a parent. I mean, I don't want to take too much credit for it because, I mean, that may have happened anyway, but certainly all my kids find a lot of things in life funny like I do. And I should say I brought up all my 4 children on Fawlty Towers. They can quote Fawlty Towers back to you. Because I always thought, for me, it's the greatest comedy series ever made. It's just so brilliantly conceived, beautifully written, and just flawlessly performed. And I was incredibly sad about when a month ago Prunella Scales died, because I always thought if there was a star in Fawlty Towers, and they were all brilliant, I would probably nominate her. The way she played Sybil, Basil's husband. This very small lady, about 5'2", 5'3", with this enormous husband, about 6'5.5", and the way she used to terrify him. He was terrified of her. And my kids all know that show well. It's famous in our family. We quote Fawlty Towers all the time.
If I hadn't done so much research about you and your family, I'd be a little bit worried that you were going to say they rebelled and they all became solicitors.
Oh, no. No, my kids are different. All my kids, my 3 girls all have a teaching background. Well, actually, two of them are still teaching. My son, Tom's interesting because he was very musical, became a very nice guitar player, wonderful trumpeter, and he could play drums quite well, could play bass quite well. He was just just very, very musical. And the other 3 are too. But Tom's also is very, very academic as well. So they came to that point, a bit like a fork in the road. Do you go down the musical route or go down the academic route? And he's chosen the academic route, and he's very good at it. But he would have been a very fine musician too. But as everyone knows who's a musician, it's a very hard road to take. It's hard to make a good living out of it. Although all the famous people who do make a good living, there are about 1,000 who don't, who are trying, but they never make much of a living out of it. So I think he chose the route that he thought was the best for him. But he still plays. He still plays with trumpet, and he's just very, very musical.
What do you? I know I've touched on the idea of keeping things silly and keeping things fun along the way. But when you think about good parents, knowing that you've been exposed to probably more parents than any obstetrician on the planet, because they've all come in and spent time at your shows and probably introduced their kids to you and so forth. When you think about good fathers that you've interacted with, what kind of attributes spring to mind?
Well, I think it sounds like loving a kid. Loving a kid usually comes fairly easily. It's kind of the blood connection is very strong. I found that when I had grandchildren that you think they're one step removed, but the blood connection just kicks in very, very powerfully. So there's that, I guess, that the loving your children. I think doing stuff with them, enjoying their abilities, enjoying their talents, and encouraging their talents, not pushing them, but encouraging their talents. I think giving them a sense of caring for the world. I'm quite a political animal, and I have I care about stuff that's going on in the world. And I hope I've actually passed that on to my children as well. I guess I encourage any creative parts of their being, and always assuming that people are creative. I think being creative is often a slightly misunderstood thing, that people tend to associate being creative with the arts, but in actual fact, there are all sorts of people. There are creative doctors, creative scientists, creative sportsmen too, who can think laterally, and that's part of what being creative is. There are probably lots of other things I could say too about being a good father or being a good parent, but I think also enjoying it too. And of course, the thing we've all discussed about is introducing kids to humour, because I think humour is such a powerful thing. In fact, there's a very fascinating John Cleese story about. There's a guy, he said, when he made the film A Fish Called Wanda, and they were doing a showing of it to sort of see how the audiences reacted to the film, and there was one guy who was laughing so much at the movie that he had a heart attack and died.
Oh God!
And John Cleese was saying, on one level, this is obviously incredibly sad, but on the other hand, he said, could you think of a better way of dying? Dying from laughing at a film. So that's one aspect of humour. The other aspect of humour is that it's part of mental health.
There's so many valid points in there, and I really appreciate you sharing that, Peter. That was really meaningful.
Music is incredibly powerful. I can tell you one brief story, which I'm still amazed at. The power of music, because I've grown up as a musician, and I've loved all sorts of music all through my life, and it's meant an enormous amount to me, and it's been very much part of my psyche. There was a lady who came up to me after a concert, and she said, "Oh, your song, Music of the Day," which you may or may not know, it's called Music of the Day, or bracket Sing Bird Sing, one of my oldest songs, and I put it on my album, A Planet Earth, Third from the Sun, which came out in 2023. Anyway, this lady came up after a show I did. I think it was Melbourne. She said, "Oh, look, I wanted to thank you because your song, Music of the Day, saved my life." And I thought what she meant was, well, I was going through a bad patch, and this song, I put it on, it would help me a lot, make me feel better. And she said, no. She said, no. I mean, it actually saved my life. What she was trying to say to me was this song stopped her committing suicide.
Wow.
And I thought, that's really kind of heavy stuff. But all it did was, it wasn't like an ego thing for me. It was just simply saying that music can be that powerful. If you love something that much, it can have that sort of power. Certain music for me, I listened to a track only about 2 days ago, and this track, every time I hear it, it makes me cry. I can't stop it. It's so beautiful that, and in a sense, I guess that's what this lady was saying. This track, she just loved it so much that it actually stopped her taking her life. And I thought that was very hard to take in, but incredibly powerful.
That must have sat with you for a while then.
Oh, I did. Oh, yeah. I went home. I just couldn't stop thinking about it because when she said, no, I mean, actually saved my life, it was quite extraordinary. So, yeah, it was pretty sort of a heavy moment. It was uplifting because I was pleased that, that the song was part of her still being alive.
No words for that, Peter. No words at all.
It was certainly a fairly fascinating but thought-provoking, few minutes just hearing talking to this lady. So, of course, I couldn't talk to her too long because she'd said that, and then when I'm doing a meet and greet after a concert, you got all this line of people lined up, and but I kind of wanted to talk to her more. That's pretty much what she said before she disappeared.
It's a reflection on what you've accomplished as well. I know I'd sort of a bit tongue-in-cheek before talking about, the impact you've had on 50 years of, Australian children and beyond as well, but really is a testament to what music can do.
I think it's probably worth saying too that I think that even though I talked a lot about music, that silly, quirky song, I've written a lot of loves of that. I've also written many serious songs, or probably less of them on children's albums, but I think they're equally as important because I don't always assume that children like. I mean, they do love up-tempo, echo songs, Newspaper Mama, Wash Your Face, Nigel, that stuff. They love all that. There's no doubt about that. But they also do, you never underestimate children's ability to absorb something more subtle and more serious. And sometimes someone will write to me and say, oh, my favourite 3 songs are Wash Your Face, Orange Juice, Juicy Juicy Green Grass, and Lullaby for Tom. And those Lullaby for Tom is totally different to Juicy Juicy Green Grass or Wash Your Face, Orange. It's a serious song. That's the one I wrote for my son. And it's very touching when, say a 9-year-old child says that song means as much to them in a quite different way than the more kind of up-tempo sort of ones that are well known. So that's something I enjoy knowing that happens with children. It's a very important thing.
So one segment we have is How to Dad. This is an opportunity to ask a few questions that define moments of being a dad. And the question that I had for you, because I have a few as well, is of any album or any artist or a selection of albums, what are maybe 3 albums that you know or you want or you have shared with your kids?
Oh, that's a good question, actually. That leads on to albums I shared with my kids. I'd probably say, off the top of my head, Paul Simon and Garfunkel's Bridge Over Troubled Water, the Beatles' Abbey Road, and probably Simon and Garfunkel's Bookends album. Those 3, the ones. Now I say those 3 albums because I did a show at the Fringe, Adelaide Fringe. We've done this show 3 times.
Yeah,
and it's called My Dad Brainwashed Me with 60s Music.
yes.
And the reason we did this show was there were songs that I loved growing up myself. I tended to play a lot in our house when my children were growing up, and those 3 albums were the ones they heard a lot. So they almost accidentally influenced my children's music tastes.
And did you sit down with them and go, let's listen to this, or was it a car trip, or is it, hey guys, I think you should listen to these, and they discovered them themselves?
Yeah, they pretty much discovered them just by me playing them, hearing me play them, and then no doubt I probably played them in the car when they were young kids as well. But it was more just them playing them in the house on the stereo in the house, where they heard them, and of course I'd sing them at the occasional adult concert I'd do, and so they'd know that the song meant a lot to me. And it was almost by osmosis. They just picked up this particular albums with certain songs on them. So when we did this concert, My Dad Brainwashed Me with 60s music, songs on these 3 albums were in the concert. And that's when I knew how much they meant to them. I mean, I already kind of knew that, but things like Here Comes the Sun from Abbey Road, The Only Living Boy in New York from Bridge Over Troubled Water, the song America, which comes from the Bookends album. They were all on the concert, and they loved all those 3 songs, loved doing them. Yeah. So that's when I guess I realised that the song did mean a lot to them, and they heard a lot as a child. Said I never pushed them onto it. They just simply heard them, and they got to love them as well. Like my daughter often says, she wished she'd grown up in the 60s because she loves 60s music. And she's a real kind of 60s folky Beatles, Peter, Paul and Mary, Simon and Garfunkel, Joni Mitchell, Leonard Cohen sort of a convert. She loves all that stuff, like I do. So yeah, it's a very, very long answer to your question, Alex.
You've just mentioned an interesting song there. Here Comes the Sun is a song that has consistently and eerily played throughout our entire pregnancy journey.
Really? Ah.
Even when we first went in to see the OB, Here Comes the Sun, and I was absolutely convinced that we were going to have a daughter, and my wife was saying, no, we're going to have a son, and this song just popped up everywhere. It was playing in the supermarket, it was playing in the OB, it would just randomly came on the radio, on stations that wouldn't typically play the Beatles, and that song was just there the entire way through. And my wife she's like, "No, we're having a boy." The song is the clue.
Yeah, wonderful. I could tell you a bit of a Beatles story. When I won an aria for Newspaper Mama back in 1988, the album came out. When I received the aria in Sydney, you make a speech, and they always have a keynote speaker. And the keynote speaker at this particular function was the Beatles producer, George Martin, who's kind of like known as the fifth Beatle because he was involved in every Beatle album ever made. He did the orchestration for Yesterday, produced Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Abbey Road, etc., etc. Anyway, when we got in the winner's room after he'd done his speech, and Kylie Minogue was in there as well, and all the journalists, all they wanted to do was talk to Kylie. They were crowded around her and chatting away. And she's a very, very sweet girl. She's lovely. But there's George Martin, who produced the album for the most famous rock band ever in the entire world, and he was ignored. He was just standing in the middle of the room having a cup of tea. I don't think he minded, really. He's quite happy not to no one to talk to him. And I thought, this is somehow, it says that showbiz can be a very shallow business. This guy is incredibly significant. He did the orchestration for Yesterday, for God's sake. And he's ignored. And no one wants to talk to him. So I had the chance to go up to him, and I thought, no, I don't want to go up and do something silly like asking for his autograph. That would seem such a sort of a silly thing to do, really. So we spent quite a long time talking about the orchestration for A Day in a Life, which is the last track on Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band. It's a brilliant song with this extraordinary orchestral thing. And do you know the song at all?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Very well. Yeah,
What do
yeah,
you
yeah.
do? Okay. Well, you know the orchestral thing, how it ascends and ascends and ascends and ascends and ascends. At the end, there's this extraordinarily huge chord, 43-second chord. Anyway, describe how he actually got the orchestra to play this ascending passage. Because the trick was that orchestras, they read notes. They're classical musicians who read notes. They don't like being left on their own, having to make up stuff themselves. But the brief was you go from your lowest note to your highest note in a certain amount of time, and you get there however you want to get there. And that's why that particular sequence in the song, you should hear twice, sounds kind of almost kind of eerie, a bit scary, because all these classical orchestral players are just finding their way up to their top note. And it's just so we talked about that, and that was a really, really interesting discussion. And I've always felt incredibly honoured that I got half an hour with the fifth Beatle. I thought that was, and I have to thank Kylie Minogue for it. If she hadn't been there, I probably wouldn't have got that chance. So I'm forever grateful to Kylie.
Of course.
Oh my God! Listening to Peter Combe talk about the Beatles, this is it for me. I think I've peaked. This is it.
When you talk about Sgt. Pepper's, because that was one of my albums, and rather selfishly, which is the story that I will share, is that since having kids, on the 1st of December, we put the Christmas tree up and we put Peter Combe's Christmas album on.
Yeah.
Ever since we've had our daughter, that's happened on the 1st of December. The album plays front to back, probably a couple of times, depending on how the Christmas tree decorating is going. And I just wanted to share with you that your album is very special to us in our family.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's very, very kind of you to say that. Well, that's interesting is that particular tradition of playing the Christmas album, I call it the green one, because there's a red one as well, but the red one much better known, is something which a lot of families do all over Australia, because I keep getting emails, people telling me that. So it's rather touching that people play that album while they're putting up the Christmas tree. Because that album could have easily not happened. The ABC weren't that wild about me making an album that had no traditional famous Christmas songs on it. Didn't have Rudolph, didn't have Silent Night, all the Christmas stuff you hear on carols nights. And I had absolutely no interest in re-recording them because they've been done so many times. I wanted to do an album of original Christmas songs. So they were skeptical. So I was quite thrilled when the album went gold in 5 weeks. And because people really they seem to love it. It's become a bit of a classic with the Australian family. So I'm thrilled to hear that story you told about your family and the Christmas tree, because it's one I've heard a lot over the past 30 years. So, yeah, I remain very touched by that. It's lovely to hear that.
I'm going to jackknife quickly, but I've got to ask this question while you're here, and you can't escape. Backstage beefs. So backstage beefs in kids' music. Have you ever needed to put a wiggle in their place and say, no, I'm king of the kids, I'm top of the hierarchy, you'll follow suit, or is everyone very respectful when you're in the room?
Yeah, people are respectful. I feel about the Wiggles, it's kind of a strange one because I almost feel we're in a slightly different field because the Wiggles are what they are. They're this juggernaut of children's music, and they're kind of everywhere. And they have their names on all sorts of promotional stuff, like toothpaste and toothbrushes and all that kind of stuff, nappies, all that kind of thing. And I have to say, I'm not the remotest bit interested in merchandise. I mean, I'm not anti-merchandise, but I'm only interested in any merchandise which may be of some use to people. And the only merchandise I have at all, and I didn't even create this myself, was two guys who wanted to make some toffee apple socks. And I thought that was rather nice because they'd used the iconic artwork from the album. And I thought, well, that's okay because socks are really useful. Everyone needs socks. To get back to your question, I think I'm just different to the Wiggles. They're a group, of course, and they're constantly changing. For me, the music is all that counts. Nothing else really matters but the music. So I'm not interested in any extraneous extra things. But they've been incredibly successful, and good luck to them. Also, the other thing is, I think the Wiggles are pretty much a preschool group because when kids go to schools, and I know this because I do a lot of school concerts, kids tend to switch off very quickly from the Wiggles. It's not a criticism of them. It's just say that they've had enough of them by then. And I've always been really interested in writing music, leaving aside things like Clickety Cane or Watch Your Face Not Juice, which is more, I guess, a kind of more of a preschool type song. I've written lots and lots of songs for your middle and upper primary kids. They're lesser known, but I've always wanted to write because I've always felt those kids have been ignored over the years. They haven't had much offered to them, which is written sort of for them, and therefore, of course, they tend to gravitate towards pop music often a bit too early, and that plays back into, I think, that there's always a danger of losing a childhood, of growing up too soon.
There's something that's so spectacularly anti-establishment about Peter Combe. No, I don't want your merchandise. No, I don't want no, I'm not going to follow the nursery rhyme system. No, I'm going to do this. I'm going to make the music for the people. I'm going to put it out there and make it for them without all of this background noise. I feel like I'm talking to a punk rocker from the 70s. It's just awesome. Like the whole mentality around it. If I wasn't already completely on board before, anti-establishment kids music, I'm for it.
I think I am anti-establishment in the sense that, at the moment, of course, the big news being very serious now is, of course, the awful event at Bondi. That was absolutely horrible, ghastly. But I've also, over the last 2 years, been very concerned about what's happened in Gaza. I think what's happened in Gaza is just appalling. And when you find out that over 20,000 children have been killed, as a person who's dedicated his whole life to children, you can't ignore that kind of stuff. And I'm quite happy to come out and say that. But because most people tend to keep their, call it politics. To me, it's just humanity to themselves. But that's something that I've been, I've been outspoken about it because I feel extraordinarily sad that these young Palestinian children have just been, blown off the face of the earth, and not that much has been said about it. We all know it's happened. It's on the news. It's on the news every night, but it's not really talked about. But the thing in Bondi is obviously just appalling.
When Gaza broke out, and I sat down on my daughter's bed and just wanted to talk to her about how lucky she was, she lived where she did.
Yeah.
And she didn't. She was like, "Okay, Dad, cool." But for me as a dad, that's what I needed. I needed to give her reassurance that she was safe. Which was really important. And I just wanted to perhaps segue back into an opportunity to talk about your Fringe show, the Adelaide Fringe in 2026. What can audiences expect from your show?
Well, I guess in summary, it's a mix of the older songs and the newer songs. I don't want people to think at my show that I stopped writing songs after Spaghetti Bolognese or 30-odd years ago. I've written many, many, many songs since then. And I try and make the show a combination of of the old stuff, what I call the hits, I suppose, loosely speaking. So there'll be Mr. Clickety Cane, Spaghetti Bolognese, Juicy Green Grass, Toffee Apple. They'll all be in the show. But there'll be new songs like a song called 10,000 Stars, which comes from my last album. And the album is called A Frog and My Cheese Sandwich. That'll be in the show too. Also in my fringe shows, I have a group of about 13 kids who perform on stage with me. This is a group of kids who come from a performing arts school called Theatre Bugs. And it's a performing arts school that was started by my daughter about 25 years ago, Joni. She started this school and it was very successful. And I've been working with kids now. It's probably close to my 20th fringe I've worked with them. And these are lovely kids who come along, they dance, they sing, they act in the show, and they give the show a whole nother dimension. But it kind of also, it plays into my philosophy of, if I'm a children's songwriter, I want children not just to be on my albums. I want also to be in my shows. It seems the most natural thing in the world to have children on stage with me. It makes the shows much harder to do, more work involved. I've got to go to a number of rehearsals. I've got to be careful to get the right kids in the shows. I can't have too many kids who can't sing well, so I've got to do a bit of auditioning. But I guess it's my philosophy of working with children on albums, on shows, and it's great to them because they get the chance to do a seven-season show. And every year they kind of start up. First show they're a little bit anxious, but by the seventh show they're like seasoned professionals, and it's wonderful to see this progression in children's faces that they get to love it and they can't wait each time they do the next show. So that'll be my fringe shows next year. It's called the show is called Peter Combe in Brush Your Hair with a Toothbrush. I've tended to use the lines from Mr. Clickety Cane because they're kind of well-known lines. Each year it's a different line. But yeah, it's a mix of music, songs, dance, acting, singing, and mix of old songs and new. And I just choose the new songs are songs that they've got to be songs that work in a live situation, because some songs you record don't necessarily work as well live. So I choose songs that will work live. And if they're softer songs, less interactive, they tend to come at the beginning of the show when children's concentration spans are at their peak. Like you wouldn't, for example, start off with Mr. Clickety Cane. That would be ridiculous. Because you're starting with your number one song right at the top of the show, and the rest of the way is downwards. So you're always trying to work your way up to a kind of a musical climax, really. So that's the way my fringe show will be structured.
A bit like Sgt. Pepper's.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
I was going to say, there's definitely a comparison there.
That's my fringe shows for next year.
Thank you, Peter Combe, for spending your afternoon with us. It's been truly incredible hearing you talk about being a father and a musician. And as I sit here seething with envy about your experience with the fifth Beatle, I will bite my tongue and stay polite and try not to live vicariously through you, and just say an enormous thank you on behalf of Alex.
I should say briefly, George Martin is a very, very nice human being. He was a very nice, of course he died, but a delightful man.
Peter, the knife is already in me. Stop twisting it, okay?
Sorry, I'll stop talking about it.
Thanks so much for joining us, Peter. It's been great.
Mike Ratbit. Nice to meet you both.
After the break, we'll be back with Word of the Week.
Oh, my friend had a baby. Life flipped like a coin. Oh, my friend had a baby. Chaos joined the joy.
I hope you will enjoy this podcast. If you like it, give it 5 stars. Don't forget to tell your friends and family.
Diapers on the dashboard, milk stains on the moon. He says he's drowning in love, but man, it came too soon. Bassline pounding, heartbeat, wah-wah guitar scream. Parenthood's a dubstep drop, not some easy
Peter fucking Combe. Oh my God, that was amazing.
Well,
that whole experience, I'm just like, I don't know, I'm starstruck. I am inspired. I feel like that part of my life has, in a bunch of ways, answered so many questions I had, but at the same time has somehow better prepared me to be a dad.
Well, now
mostly because I'm going to be stealing all of his traditions. Like, okay, poetry every year. I can do that. That's fine.
Write some custom music for each child.
Dude.
Step it up, dads of Australia. Now you know what Peter Combe does, mate.
Yeah, that's the standard.
This
is where it's at, right? Anything below Peter Combe's standard, I don't want to hear about it.
Yeah.
I don't want you near me. I don't want you near my kids or my kid when they come. I don't want, this is it, right? And I don't like one of my hugest regrets about that was not asking him at the end, do you want another kid in their 30s? Because I know a guy. I know a guy who wants in.
Oh, that was so very sweet, and we are so unbelievably appreciative of the time that he gave us. It made me reflect on so many things that I do with my kids, and I think to myself, am I a piece of shit? Like, am I doing
yes,
this? Am I?
You are. Everyone is compared to Peter Combe. Like, I'm sorry to be the guy to tell you this and answer that question, but the answer is yes. If you're not Peter Combe, you're a piece of shit.
I don't think he would agree with that.
Oh, he's too nice. And that makes it even worse. He'd encourage you. He'd say, no, you're a great guy. You're going to be good luck. You're going to be a great dad. And then I'd be going, if I was Peter Combe, I'd be like, yeah, I'm the fucking business.
Well, one thing, actually, when he talked about writing songs for his kids, oh my God, why, that is just amazing. But it did remind me of some of the little things that I do. And I'm sure you'll give me grief about wearing socks in the bath on your birthday or whatever. But
I got opinions. But that's all right. We'll come back to that.
Is it the one thing that we do on their birthdays is I sit them down and I put the camera in front of them and I interview them on their birthday. So I get them. Yeah, so we get a yearly snapshot of where they're at. And I think, with my background, that is something that I can do with my kids and feel good about that. So, Scott, I don't know what you're going to do. Show them
probably
Goon of Fortune.
A list of all the ways they've wronged me throughout the last 12 years and read that out loud to them and just sort of say, look, I got things you got to hear about the last 12 months.
But it also, I guess, that is the byproduct of this podcast. It is a little time capsule of dads, and they'll forever be able to hear our voices until the end of the universe, which I think is really sweet. But another thing that will always be there until the end of the universe is Word of the Week. Scott, if you'd like to intro us into the music.
Cue that music.
It's time for Word of the Week. It's time for Word of the Week. It's time, oh yeah, for Word of the Week.
Posterior fornix. Posterior fornix.
Oh, that's probably the most complicated one we've had yet.
Well, I thought let's just kick it up a notch. Just go full clinical. Let's bust out the classic sort of old school medical textbooks and find a word of the week. The word of the week was actually donated this week by a good friend, Liz, who has listened to the podcast.
Okay.
And she was very, very keen for us to talk about this. So posterior fornix is the deepest recess at the top of the vagina, located behind the cervix. It forms a crucial part of the vaginal vault that wraps around the cervix, and it leads to the rectuterine pouch, and it's also known as the pouch of Douglas. Now, the reason the word is so great, it's so exciting, and she was so excited when she was telling me this because it's essentially like a little motel for sperm.
Oh.
So the man ejaculates, or in the clinical term, jizzes, if you will, and Like all the strong ones, they go like they're just like the Spartans. They
Oh,
blast.
so they're
gone.
not hanging around. They're not stopping in the
they're
hotel.
just like
Okay.
fucking catch you. I'm out here for egg. I came here to swim and bust egg. Right? That's your Spartans. They're out on the move. Then you got your lazy boys.
Yeah.
And they're hanging out. They sort of pop into that little area there. So it's right at the top of the vaginal canal. And the little spermies that live in that environment that hang out up there, they can hang out there for like multiple days.
Oh,
by the way, like these just slacker,
so they've got a card, they've got a reservation for a couple of days.
Oh yeah, they've got valet parking, right? And they've come there, they drop their bags at the door, fully arrogant sperm, and then they go and just hang out up there. But the thing is, the sperm that hang out there, when the woman moves around, it can kind of shake out, it kind of jiggle out the loose little spermies, right? So those slackers, while it's unlikely because your Spartans are going to just sort of charge the gate and get to the egg first, those little slackers, they can come racing up.
Yeah, so
at the official.
So they can pull a Bradbury and
they can absolutely pull a Bradbury. Yeah, 100%. So it's also where menstrual cups fit.
Oh, okay.
As well. So, and it's it's a very important part of the vagina as well. It's the pathway for gynecological surgeries and it allows access into the pelvic cavity. Also helps with intercourse, full stop. Yeah, it's a really important part, the posterior fornix.
Because I would have thought they're old spermies, they're pre-programmed to just like, we're going straight for the egg, but some of them just don't have the strength and they get stuck there, or they go, no, I'm happy here for the moment.
My loose understanding of how sperm work is you've got your winners and you got, the ones that are a little bit lazy. So the winners are more likely just to go for it, as you said, but then it's also just a point of convenience as well. You can get some of the Spartans that get caught up in there as well. Yeah, it's a really critical part. It's a temporary reservoir.
Yeah, that's who knew that the body functioned that way, that there is a backup plan in case the initial brigade, they go on their attack, they get slaughtered at the line. Who knows? They might have issues. They might go the wrong way. I don't know if they can go the wrong way. Someone can correct me on that. So they got the boys in the backup dancers, if you will. The front man falls down.
Yep.
And so they have to sort of do their little jiggle dance and get out there and do their bit. Well, isn't that nice? I wonder how many of us were a reservoir baby.
A swamp sperm.
Swamp sperm. Oh, that's so. I guess that's sweet.
Is it sweet?
I don't know. How long can they last in that sack?
So they hang around there in the posterior fornix region. It's usually 20 to 30 minutes, right? So that's not super exciting.
Okay.
However, I was going to backtrack on something I said before because there's another part of the exceedingly complex female anatomy that is involved, and I may have blended some parts of this together. They're called the cervical crypts.
They've got their own crypts.
They've got their own crypts. So they're small pockets in the cervix that hold the sperm, and they will release them gradually over time, right? So the cervical crypts, they're these folds inside of the vagina, and they also act as barriers, so shields from the vagina's acidity and all those different things that are fighting the sperm, because the vagina is actually incredibly hostile. Right? It's a hostile environment for the sperm.
Don't have to tell me.
It just again goes to show that the fact that this species has survived as long as it has is absolutely insane. But it's an incredibly acidic environment. So spermies go in there, they go into the crypts and they go into the posterior fornix. And so it's like this, I don't know what you call it, like an obstacle course of different folds and cups and nooks and crannies for these poor little spermies to be able to just blast up and create the loves of our lives in our children.
So you know that if the ones that do make it have really earned it, they've done their obstacle course of getting through the old canal and making its way up the tubies and ending at the egg.
They've battled their 200 million competitors. They've run through or swum through the war zone that is the vagina, that's just spitting acid, and it's creating every kind of hostility it possibly can. And then in the end, the egg's there like, what fucking took you so long? What are you fucking doing?
Well, then the egg has to make that journey as well, back the other way. It's like, all right, now that I've got one of you in me, I'm going to make my way back down the fallopian tube. I'm probably stuffing this up like intensely. Going to have like a doctor on at some point goes, we just need to clarify a couple of things. And just a reminder that none of this is personal or professional advice. And if you have any questions, ask your doctor, not this podcast.
But that would, if that were the reaction the egg had to that one sperm that got all the way there, like where the fuck have you been? And the sperm being able to turn around to said egg and say, right, let me show you where I've been.
Come with me. Come with me.
Like my sperm in this scenario is Dante going through the multiple layers of hell to get there and find the trapped love of his life, and for her in the 9th layer of hell or however many layers there are to be like, what's your problem? Why do you look so tired? And say, right, come with me, I'll show you. So yes, there's a bunch of different temporary reservoirs throughout the vagina. It's not just a simple, fleshy tube in which the sperm sort of go on a glorious biological slip and slide to its finish point. It's a,
hellscape.
It's a hellscape. It's an absolute hellscape in there. Speaking of hellscapes, what I'm going to encourage you to do right now, Alex, and listeners, if you're that way inclined, just Google recent images of human egg.
Yes. Okay. I'm looking that up. And if I go to images, okay, which one? What am I looking at? Which one am I looking at here?
I'd like you to pay attention specifically to the one that looks like a boob with an infected nipple that is leaking a tear of pus. Yeah, that's the prize for that sperm that gets all the way through. That sperm that's just been, marinating away, jiggling around in your testicles for all this time and battles its way through an acidic hellscape, goes through various folds and is, the vagina releases at certain points and, bombs are dropping and machine gun fire can be heard. And it finally gets to the end, and that's the finish point. Like you couldn't blame the sperm for saying,
getting there and going,
what the fuck am I doing with my life? Like, what have I done?
I've existed for 30 seconds and this is what I get.
So all spermy cryptness aside, this episode has definitely run much longer than any of our previous ones. So if you've actually gotten to this point, post-Combe.
You've got that post-Combe clarity and you've got to this point.
There's a new definition of BC, and it's not AD, it's AC. So it's before Combe and after Combe, right? So you've survived. You've survived the after Combe section, the previous moment in time where Combe was present, and somehow you've managed to write out the rest of the podcast. And we thank you so much. We know it's been a huge disappointment just having the two of us here, but while you see, as we sort of fade out and sort of gush about what has just transpired, just a huge thank you to Peter for spending the time he did and sharing everything he did. It was absolutely fantastic. Get your tickets, get to the Fringe. I know it's going to be a very, very solid reason for me to get on a plane and get back over to Adelaide for Mad March, so I can go up to Peter Combe in person and be like, hey, man, you remember me? I was the guy that asked if you ever threw down with a wiggle.
And after all that, we forgot to ask him for free tickets
Man, what's it all been for? Like, what are we doing?
Well, I think, a lot of people wonder about their place in this world, and some people lament about the age that we're in right now. And, we weren't around to discover the new world. We're not going to be around to discover space, but we were here in this moment to share the planet with Peter Combe, and I think that's a good thing.
The DC moment. We
Yes.
had the BC, we got the before Combe. We're in the during Combe section. Like we're in the midst of it. And we're hoping with 4 sets of cross fingers that there's another 25 albums to come and that Peter Combe will adopt me and write a song for me. Peter Combe, if you listen to this podcast, remember your old pal Scotty.
You're halfway there with your middle name.
Oh, we didn't even get to tell him that my middle name is hashtag Peter Combe.
Oh. Maybe next time. We're almost outliving the cold death of the universe here with how long this episode has gone. And
Time to pull the ripcord. We got to get out of here.
We'll see you in the next episode. Thank you so much for listening.
And for all you tired parents out there, remember, toffee on the apple, jumpsuit on the baby.
Oh, my friend had a baby. Chaos joined the joy.
How topical.
It's a Peter Combs comment.
I get it. The people are going to have to
Don't
arrive.
give me that look.
No, it's fine. People are going to have to arrive to that conclusion themselves, and I wish them all the best.
Well,
sorry.
I'm all calmed down. All right, I'm calmed down.
Podcast.